Have you ever wondered why some people keep rising, year after year, while everyone else stays stuck in the exact same place? This is a lesson to help you improve your English while you learn something that can change your future. Today, you will learn the hard things that 99% of people run from, and the reason a small group of people run toward them instead. Here is the truth. Most people want the result without wanting the process. They want the strong body, but they do not want the early mornings. A full bank account sounds great, but the years of careful saving do not. A calm mind is appealing, yet the quiet discipline it takes to build one is not. In every case, they want the reward, without the price. And that gap, between wanting the reward and refusing the price, is exactly where most people get stuck for their entire lives. The 1% are not smarter than you. They are not luckier than you. They were not born with something you do not have. In fact, many of them started with less than you have right now. What they do have is a habit of doing the things that feel hard, boring, and uncomfortable, again and again, long after everyone else has quit, until those things stop feeling hard. Think about it honestly for a moment. How many times have you known exactly what you needed to do, and simply did not do it? How many mornings have you told yourself, "I will start tomorrow," only for tomorrow to quietly become next week, and next week to quietly become next year? This is not a personal failure that belongs only to you. It is simply the normal, human pattern that almost everyone falls into. The only difference is that some people learn to break the pattern, and most people do not. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be, not motivation, not luck, not talent. Discipline. And today, you are going to learn 6 hard things, 6 specific habits that separate the people who quietly succeed from the people who quietly stay stuck. You may feel a little uncomfortable hearing some of this. That is completely normal, and honestly, it is a good sign. Growth was never supposed to feel easy the whole way through. By the end of this lesson, you will know exactly what to start doing tomorrow morning, and exactly what to stop doing tonight. Let us begin. Rule 1. Do the hardest thing first. Most people wake up and start their day with the easy things. They check messages. They scroll for a few quiet minutes. They make coffee slowly and ease into the morning. By the time they finally sit down to face the one hard task waiting for them, their energy is already gone, their focus is already scattered, and their mind has already found a dozen small reasons to push it back again. The 1% do the opposite, on purpose, every single day. They wake up and attack the one task they least want to do. The difficult phone call. The uncomfortable conversation. The workout their body is dreading. The report they have already avoided for 3 days straight. They do it first, while their willpower is still full, before the ordinary noise of the day has a chance to drain them. Picture a runner who wakes up long before sunrise. The street outside is empty and silent. The air is cold enough to sting the skin. Every part of the body is whispering to stay under the warm blanket just a little longer. But the runner puts on the shoes anyway, opens the door anyway, and takes that first uncomfortable step out into the cold anyway. That first step is not comfortable, and it was never supposed to be comfortable. It was only ever supposed to be done. You already know the one task you have been quietly avoiding. You know it right now, as you listen to this lesson. Maybe it is a phone call you keep postponing. Perhaps it is a decision you keep delaying. It could be something as simple as getting out of bed at the time you already promised yourself. Whatever it is, that task holds a strange kind of power over you for as long as you keep pushing it into tomorrow. Here is a simple, honest test you can use starting today. Weak habits wait for the feeling of motivation before taking action. Strong habits take action first and allow the motivation to catch up later, if it ever shows up at all. Weak habits say, I will do it once I feel ready. Strong habits say, I will do it. Because readiness was never actually required in the first place. This is not about becoming a perfect person overnight. It is about becoming a willing person, day after day. It is about slowly becoming the kind of person who moves before comfort ever gives permission to move. Attack the hardest thing first, and something surprising happens. The rest of your day becomes noticeably lighter, because the heaviest weight you were carrying is already off your shoulders before most people have even finished their coffee. Consider a student preparing for an important exam. Every evening, that student has two options sitting in front of them. Option 1 is the difficult chapter they do not understand, full of confusing formulas and unfamiliar words. Option 2 is the easy chapter they already know well, comfortable and familiar. Most students, night after night, quietly choose the easy chapter, telling themselves they will handle the difficult one tomorrow when they feel more prepared. But the student who eventually passes with confidence is the one who opens the difficult chapter first, while their mind is still fresh enough to actually absorb it. This pattern repeats itself in every area of life, not only in study or exercise. In work, in relationships, in personal goals, the hardest task is almost always the most important task, and the most important task is almost always the one sitting quietly at the bottom of the list, waiting to be pushed aside one more day. Rule 2. Show up when you do not feel like it. Feelings are not reliable narrators. Some mornings you wake up feeling strong, sharp, and completely ready to work. Other mornings you wake up feeling tired, flat, and unwilling to do anything at all. If you only show up on the days you happen to feel good, you will only show up about half the time, and half effort has never built anything lasting in the history of the world. There is an old story about a young athlete who trained under a very demanding coach every single day, rain or shine, injured or perfectly healthy. The coach expected the athlete on the court at exactly the same time. One morning, the athlete arrived late, complaining about a headache and a rough night of sleep. The coach did not raise his voice or lecture him for an hour. He simply pointed toward the court and said one short sentence: "The ball does not care how you feel." That single sentence stayed with the athlete for the rest of his career. The ball does not care how you feel. Your goals do not care how you feel. Your future self, the one waiting for you 5 years from now, does not care how you felt on any particular Tuesday. What matters, in the end, is the action you actually took, not the mood you happened to be in while taking it. Most people treat their emotions like a boss giving orders. If the emotion says stop, they stop immediately. If the emotion says skip today, they skip today without questioning it. But strong, disciplined people treat their emotions more like weather passing through. You notice the rain falling outside. You put on a coat, and you still walk outside and do what needs to be done. Showing up on the easy days requires almost nothing from you. Anyone can manage that. Showing up on the hard days, the tired days, the days when absolutely nothing feels right, that is precisely where real separation happens between people. That is where the 1% quietly pulls ahead, while everyone else keeps waiting for a better mood that may honestly never arrive on its own. You do not need to feel ready before you begin. You only need to show up, exactly as you are, tired or not, motivated or not. Feeling ready is simply a bonus that sometimes appears later. It was never the requirement to start. Think about the difference between a person who exercises only on days they feel energetic and a person who exercises on a fixed schedule, regardless of energy. Over a single month, the difference may look small, but over 5 years, the gap between these two people becomes enormous, because one person built a system that does not depend on feelings, while the other person built a system that collapses the moment a bad mood shows up. This is why so many people fail at the same goal, year after year, even with the very best intentions at the start. They are relying on motivation, a feeling that was never designed to last. The people who succeed long-term are not the ones who feel motivated more often than everyone else. They are the ones who learned, slowly and deliberately, to act correctly even when the feeling never shows up at all. Rule 3. Choose discomfort over comfort on purpose. Comfort feels safe. It feels warm. It quietly whispers, "Stay right here. Everything is fine. You can always start tomorrow instead." But comfort is quiet, and quiet is dangerous because you do not notice yourself slowly falling behind until years have already slipped by without you fully realizing it. A weak habit of thinking says, "Why make life harder than it already needs to be?" A strong habit of thinking says, "If it is not a little bit hard, then it is probably not growing me at all." Someone stuck in comfort avoids the gym because the body feels tired. Someone building discipline walks into the gym precisely because the body feels tired, understanding that tired muscles are exactly the ones that most need to move. Avoiding the difficult conversation protects short-term peace, but starting that same conversation protects long-term trust, even though the short-term feels uncomfortable. Think about an inventor who tried thousands of times before finally creating a working light bulb. Most people would have quietly given up after the 10th failed attempt, convinced that comfort and safety made far more sense than continued struggle. But he kept choosing the harder path, failure after failure, because he understood something most people never fully learn in their lifetime. Discomfort is not the enemy of progress. Discomfort is simply the price of it, paid in advance. If this lesson has been useful to you so far, take 30 seconds right now to like this video and leave a comment telling me one hard thing you are going to do today, right after this ends. Writing it down where other people can see it makes the promise feel real, and reading your own words back later will remind you exactly why you started in the first place. Now let us return to the lesson. You cannot grow a stronger body without deliberately stressing the muscle past its comfort. You cannot grow a stronger mind without deliberately stressing your comfort zone past what feels easy. Every single time you choose the harder option on purpose, instead of the easier one available to you, you are quietly training a muscle that most people never touch in their entire lives. The muscle of self-respect. Over time, this becomes a kind of quiet confidence that comfort could never give you. When you know, deep down, that you consistently choose the harder right thing over the easier wrong thing, you begin trusting yourself in a way that comfortable people rarely experience. Rule 4. Face the fear you have been avoiding. Everyone has one. The phone call they refuse to make. The number on the scale they refuse to check. The relationship conversation they refuse to start. The business idea they refuse to test in the real world. Fear grows quietly in silence and avoidance. The longer you avoid it, the larger it becomes inside your mind, until a genuinely small task begins to feel like an impossible mountain standing directly in front of you. A young woman once wanted to start her own small business, but she was terrified of rejection from other people. Every time she imagined telling anyone about her idea, her stomach turned into knots. So for 2 full years, she said absolutely nothing. She built the product quietly in secret, told no one about it, and stayed safely invisible the entire time. Nothing bad happened to her during those 2 years of silence, but nothing good happened either. Safety and stillness felt exactly the same from the inside. One day, she finally posted about her idea online, hands shaking the entire time, expecting the very worst reaction from strangers. A few people ignored it completely. A few people even laughed at it. But a few people believed in what she was building, and that small handful of belief was enough for her to finally begin. Notice something important here. The fear did not disappear before she took action. It disappeared only after she acted, not before. Here is the part most people get completely backwards in their own lives. They wait for the fear to leave before they move forward. But fear rarely leaves first, and it almost never leaves on its own schedule. Courage was never the absence of fear. Courage is simply doing the hard thing while the fear is still sitting right there beside you the whole time. If your goals scare you a little bit, if your ideas excite you and terrify you at exactly the same moment, if your past mistakes still whisper that you are not ready yet, then you are standing exactly where growth happens. That uncomfortable feeling is not a stop sign warning you to turn back. It is a doorway asking you to walk through it. Stop asking yourself when the fear will finally go away. Start asking yourself what you would do today if the fear simply did not get a vote in the decision at all. Fear also has a strange habit of shrinking the moment you finally look directly at it. From a distance, an unfamiliar task looks enormous and threatening. But once you take the first small step toward it, most fears reveal themselves to be far smaller than the version living inside your imagination. The dreaded phone call often lasts 3 minutes. The dreaded conversation often ends more calmly than expected. The dreaded first attempt is rarely as painful as the version your mind rehearsed 100 times in advance. This does not mean fear disappears completely, or that it should. A healthy amount of fear keeps you careful and thoughtful. But there is a clear difference between fear that protects you from real danger and fear that only protects your comfort. Learning to tell these two apart is one of the most valuable skills a disciplined person ever develops. Rule 5. Keep going after you fail. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is actually a required step living inside success. Every person who ever built something worth having carries a long, quiet list of attempts that did not work, doors that closed without warning, and careful plans that fell apart despite their best effort. The real difference between the 1% and everyone else is not that they failed less often than other people. It is that they simply quit less often than other people. There is a well-known story about a basketball player who missed thousands of shots across his long career, lost hundreds of games along the way, and failed to make the final shot dozens of times when his own team needed him most. He talked about this openly and often, saying that his failures were the exact reason behind his eventual success, because each single miss taught him something a win could never have taught him. Giving up treats failure as proof that you should stop trying immediately. Staying disciplined treats failure as proof that you are actually trying in the first place, which is more than most people ever attempt. If you never fail at anything, you are very likely staying safely inside a small box, never testing your true limits, never finding out what you are actually capable of. Growth requires risk, and risk sometimes means falling flat on your face in front of people who happen to be watching you closely. Picture two different people starting the exact same difficult project on the exact same day. Person 1 fails once, feels embarrassed in front of others, and quietly gives up, telling themselves privately that this simply was not meant to be for them. Person 2 also fails once, studies carefully what went wrong, adjusts the plan based on what was learned, and tries again the very next morning without much hesitation. A full year later, Person 2 is not simply lucky. Person 2 only refused to let one single failure become the final chapter of their entire story. Your failures are not your permanent identity. They are your tuition, paid in effort instead of money. You are paying a real price to learn something that only failure could ever have taught you. The question was never whether you would fail at some point along the way. What matters far more is whether you will stand back up again when you do. Consider how a small child learns to walk. The child falls down, over and over, dozens of times a day, often crying briefly before trying again a few seconds later. Nobody ever tells that child they are simply not built to walk. Nobody suggests the child give up after the fifth fall. And yet, as adults, we often abandon new goals after a single disappointing attempt, forgetting that we once mastered something as difficult as walking through nothing, but repeated failure and repeated effort. Somewhere along the way, many people begin treating failure as embarrassing evidence of weakness, instead of ordinary evidence of trying. If you can recover even a small piece of that childlike persistence, the willingness to fall down and simply stand back up without shame, you will find yourself capable of far more than you currently believe. Rule 6. Choose discipline over motivation every single time. Motivation is a spark. It shows up suddenly when you watch an inspiring video, hear a powerful story, or begin a fresh new year, full of hope. It feels genuinely amazing while it lasts. But motivation is deeply unreliable. It comes and goes on its own unpredictable schedule, and it rarely shows up on the cold, boring, ordinary Tuesday afternoon when you actually need it most to get the work done. Discipline does not ask how you feel before starting. Discipline does not wait patiently for a spark of inspiration to arrive first. Discipline simply shows up, opens the laptop, ties the shoes, picks up the phone, and does the task in front of it, whether the motivation happens to be there or not that day. This is the real, quiet secret hiding behind almost every long-term success story ever told. Not a sudden burst of excitement. A boring, steady, repeated choice made consistently on the days when nobody else was watching, and nothing about the moment felt inspiring at all. You do not need to feel like the strongest version of yourself before you act like the strongest version of yourself. You act first, without waiting for permission from your emotions. The feeling, if it arrives at all, usually shows up later, almost like a quiet reward for the discipline you already demonstrated. Think about a small business owner who opens the shop every single morning at exactly the same time, for years, through slow seasons and busy seasons, through good days and genuinely terrible days. Nobody claps for that owner on an ordinary Tuesday. There is no audience cheering when the door unlocks at 6 in the morning in the middle of winter. And yet, that quiet, repeated act of showing up, day after day after day, is precisely what eventually built something the whole community came to rely on. This is the moment where most people either lock this lesson into their daily life or quietly let it fade away by tomorrow afternoon, like it never happened at all. The hard things you learn today, doing the hardest task first, showing up without needing your mood to match the moment, choosing discomfort on purpose, facing the fear instead of waiting patiently for it to leave, standing back up firmly after failure, and choosing discipline over motivation, again and again. None of these require special talent. None of these require unusual luck. They only require one honest decision, repeated daily, until that decision quietly becomes who you are. That bridge between who you are and who you want to be is built out of discipline, not motivation. Today, right now, you decide whether you finally cross it, or whether you keep standing on the comfortable side, watching everyone else walk across without you. Let us bring everything together now. Tackle the hardest thing first. Show up when you do not feel like it. Choose discomfort over comfort, on purpose, again and again. Face the fear, instead of waiting for it to politely leave first. Keep going after you fail, no matter how many times it happens. Choose discipline over motivation, every single time, without exception. None of this was ever complicated. It was never really about new knowledge you lacked. You already knew most of these ideas before you even pressed play on this video today. The real question was never what to do. The real question has always been whether you will actually do it. Starting today. Starting with the very next hour of your life. Not next week. Not next month. 99% of people will finish listening to this lesson, feel genuinely inspired for about 10 minutes, and then quietly return to exactly the same habits they had yesterday, as if nothing had changed at all. But you are not here simply to be part of that 99%. You are here right now because some part of you already wants to become the 1% who actually follows through when nobody is checking. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Every hard thing you choose today is one more plank on that bridge, and every easy thing you avoid today quietly weakens it instead. Here is your homework, if you choose to accept it. Tomorrow morning, before you check a single message, do the one hard thing you have been avoiding the longest test. Just once, notice how it feels. Notice how much lighter the rest of your day becomes once that weight is gone. Keep practicing listening, keep growing, and use every lesson like this one to improve your English a little more. If this lesson pushed you in the right direction even a little, tell me in the comments below which rule you are going to apply first, starting tomorrow morning. And if you want more lessons like this one, make sure you subscribe so we can keep building a stronger mind and a stronger English together, one hard choice at a time.